Right now, you are either in control of your emotions, or they are controlling you. Every impulse, every reaction, every outburst is silently shaping your life, and not in your favor. Today, I will show you a method to break free, to stop letting anger, fear, or anxiety dictate your decisions, your success, your happiness. By the end of this audiobook, you will no longer be a slave to your emotions. You will be the master of your mind, the calm in the chaos, the person everyone else envies, but can't touch. Listen closely, because what I'm about to teach you will change the way you think, feel, and act, forever. Chapter 1. Stop reacting and start thinking. You don't realize it, but most people spend their entire lives on autopilot. Every day they react, instinctively, impulsively, emotionally, without ever stopping to think. A text comes in. They snap. A comment is made. They lash out. Traffic slows down. They explode. It happens again and again, like clockwork, and they wonder why life feels chaotic. Here's the truth. Every reaction is a choice, even if it doesn't feel like one. That's the key. You have a choice. You can react, or you can respond. You can stay a slave to your emotions, or you can become the master of your mind. Most people never even notice these moments. They are walking through life blind to the invisible strings controlling their thoughts, their decisions, their happiness. You need to wake up. You need to see the moments where you are about to react. That split second is your power. That pause, that tiny fraction of time, is where freedom lives. I control my mind. I choose my response. Say it. Say it now. Say it again. Let it sink in. Every time someone pushes your buttons, every time the world challenges you, that sentence is your shield. Think about your mornings. Think about traffic. Think about work emails, social media, family conflicts. How many of those moments trigger a response you regret? Too many. Most people can't even finish a single day without at least one emotional outburst. That's not weakness, that's autopilot. And autopilot is silent, invisible, and deadly. It steals your clarity. It steals your power. It steals your life. Here's a real example. You're driving home. Someone cuts you off. Your first instinct, yell. Slam the brakes. Maybe even follow them and honk. That's autopilot. You reacted. But here's the choice. Pause. Just 1 second. Take a deep breath. Think. The world isn't attacking you. That driver isn't trying to ruin your day. You have a choice. Instead of rage, you could breathe. Instead of snapping, you could smile. The car pulls ahead, the light turns green, and life goes on. One pause. One conscious choice. You've reclaimed control. That's power. That's freedom. That's mental mastery. Now, let's apply this at work. Someone sends a biting email. Your first thought, fire off a reply that makes them feel small. That's autopilot. That's emotional slavery. But here's where the master steps in. One pause. Read it again. Take a moment. Ask yourself, what is the goal here? Is it to react, or is it to succeed? You have a choice. That's the key. A calm, intentional response can diffuse tension, earn respect, and keep your mind clear. Reacting only brings regret. Responding brings results. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need their approval to remain in control. Let's talk about the mind itself. Your mind is a battlefield. Every thought is either a soldier under your command or a saboteur working against you. Impulsive thoughts, angry, fearful, envious, are the saboteurs. But here's the secret. You get to choose which thoughts guide your actions. You have a choice. That's the key. Stop giving power to the first thought that crosses your mind. Stop letting every word, every insult, every inconvenience pull you into a reaction. Train your mind to pause. Train your mind to think. Train your mind to act deliberately. Repetition is your weapon here. Every time you feel that urge to explode, whisper or think, "I control my mind. I choose my response." Repeat it. Repeat it loudly if you must. Repeat it silently if no one is watching. Repeat it until your reflex becomes deliberate. Repeat it until your pause is automatic. That one sentence carries more power than any insult hurled at you. More power than any chaos in your life. More power than you've ever believed possible. Some people will tell you that you're overthinking, that you're bottling things up. Ignore them. Emotional mastery is not about suppression, it's about direction. It's not about holding back, it's about choosing where your energy goes. It's not about weakness, it's about strength. That's the key. You don't need their validation. You don't need their rules. You don't need to react to prove anything. You have the ultimate power already. Your mind, your choice, your control. Practical step. Start noticing your autopilot moments today. Every time you feel a surge of emotion, catch it. Name it. Is this anger? Frustration? Fear? Now stop. Take a breath. Pause. Think. Decide. This is how habits are formed. This is how freedom is earned. Repetition matters. Practice matters. Action matters. Every pause builds the muscle of self-control. Every choice strengthens your mind. Every moment of intentional response adds up until you are no longer the person who reacts. You are the person who commands. Remember, this isn't a one-time exercise. Emotional control is a daily grind. It is relentless. It is repetitive. It is demanding. And that's exactly why it works. Every time you stop and think, you're teaching your brain a new way. Every time you choose response over reaction, you are rewriting the programming of your life. Every time you assert control, you are proving to yourself that freedom is not external, it is internal. That's the key. That's the transformation. So here's your challenge. Today, find at least 3 moments where you would normally react. Stop. Pause. Breathe. Think. Respond intentionally. Use the mantra, "I control my mind. I choose my response." Repeat it. Repeat it. Repeat it. And tomorrow, do it again. And the day after. And the day after that. Slowly, unconsciously, inevitably, you will stop being a slave to your impulses. You will start thinking, deliberately, consistently, masterfully. You've taken the first step. You've seen the autopilot for what it is. You've begun the pause. You've started reclaiming your mind. And that's why this chapter matters. You have learned the power of deliberate action over reflexive reaction. You have begun to see the moments where freedom lives. You have the mantra. You have the method. You have the choice. Now that you've mastered the first step, stopping reactions and starting thought, let's move deeper. Control isn't just about thinking before acting. There's a hidden layer, understanding what triggers you and why. You mastered your reactions. Now, let's talk about the truth behind emotional triggers. Chapter 2. The truth about emotional triggers. Every strong emotion is a signal, not a command, not an order, not a reason to explode, lash out, or collapse under pressure. It is a message from your mind, a red flag, a flashing signal telling you, pay attention. Something matters here. That's the key. Most people confuse the signal for the command. They see anger, fear, or frustration and immediately act. And that's exactly how life controls them. You have a choice. You can act on the impulse, or you can analyze it, control it, master it. That's what separates the weak from the disciplined. Let's start with triggers. Every one of us has them. A tone of voice, a glance, a word, a text, a notification. These are the sparks. But the explosion? That is your choice. You can let it happen, or you can stop it. Awareness defeats impulse. Awareness wins. Repeat it. Let it sink in. Every time your mind starts racing, every time your heart jumps, every time your hands clench or your stomach knots, that's the moment you pause. That's the moment you win. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need validation to remain in control. You have the ultimate power already, awareness. Consider a modern example. Social media notifications. A message pops up. Maybe it's criticism. Maybe it's gossip. Maybe it's a political post that enrages you instantly. Most people react. They scroll, they comment, they argue. They feed the fire. Hours later, they are exhausted, angry, frustrated. That's the trap. But here's the alternative. Awareness. Recognize the trigger. This is just a notification. It is not my life. It is not my worth. It is not my problem. Pause. Decide. You have a choice. You don't need their permission to disengage. You don't need their drama. You don't need their chaos. You have your mind. And your mind is your domain. That's the key. Triggers also exist in daily life, at work, at home, with friends, with strangers. The colleague who constantly interrupts. The family member who criticizes without reason. The driver who cuts you off. These sparks are everywhere. And they will test you. They will push buttons. But here's the truth. Only you decide whether to ignite the fire. Only you decide whether to react, or to remain unshakable. Only you decide. That's the key. Awareness defeats impulse. Awareness wins. Say it. Say it again. Live it. Now, let's get practical. How do you neutralize triggers before they hijack you? Step 1. Recognition. Name the trigger. Name the emotion. This is anger. This is fear. This is frustration. Awareness alone slows the automatic reaction. Step 2. Pause. Just 1 second is enough. Step 3. Breathe. Deep breath in, slow exhale. Reset your body, reset your mind. Step 4. Choose your response deliberately. Don't react. Respond. You have a choice. That's the key. Here's a real-life scenario. You receive criticism from your boss. Your first thought, lash out. Defend yourself. Prove them wrong. That's autopilot. That's emotional slavery. Instead, pause. Recognize the trigger. This is pride. This is fear. This is ego. Breathe. Respond intentionally. Thank you for the feedback. I'll review it and adjust. Calm. Controlled. Intentional. Your mind remains unshaken. You win. You master the signal instead of obeying the command. That's transformation. That's discipline. That's power. Triggers aren't enemies. They are opportunities. Every time someone or something provokes you, it's a test. A test of your discipline. A test of your awareness. A test of your control. Most people fail these tests. They react. They regret. They repeat the cycle endlessly. But you can succeed. You can pause. You can reflect. You can redirect. You can turn the trigger into your teacher. You have a choice. That's the key. Awareness defeats impulse. Awareness wins. Repeat it. Repeat it again. Another method, preemptive awareness. Before entering a stressful situation, identify potential triggers. The family dinner where someone always criticizes. The meeting with a difficult client. The social media scroll that always triggers anxiety. Mentally prepare. Imagine your response. Create a pause. Decide in advance that you will not give the trigger power. You don't need permission from anyone to remain calm. You have your mind. That's your power. That's your discipline. That's your freedom. It's not about being perfect. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's not about denying how you feel. It's about controlling how you act. That's the difference. It's not about reacting to every spark. It's about mastering the fire within. That's discipline. That's mental toughness. That's emotional sovereignty. You have a choice. That's the key. Every moment you exercise awareness, you build a mental muscle that is unshakable. Every trigger becomes a tool instead of a weapon. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to reinforce your control. Let's apply this daily. Each morning, review your triggers. Name them. Visualize the situations that usually push your buttons. Plan your response. Throughout the day, notice the moments you are tempted to react. Pause. Breathe. Decide. Respond intentionally. Repeat your mantra: awareness defeats impulse. Awareness wins. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Repeat it until your reflex is control. Repeat it until your mind owns the moment before the world even touches it. Here's the closing thought for this chapter. Your emotional triggers are not enemies. They are signals. They are teachers. They are opportunities to practice awareness, to practice control, to practice freedom. The more you notice them, the more you pause, the more you redirect your energy, the stronger your mind becomes. You are no longer a slave to impulses. You are learning to respond. You are learning to master. You are learning discipline. You've seen the sparks. You've learned to pause. You've begun to recognize the signal without obeying the command. And that's why this chapter matters. You are building awareness. You are building control. You are building freedom. Now that you've mastered recognizing triggers, it's time to harness the very chaos they bring and turn it into energy you can control. Chapter 3. Own your inner chaos. Chaos lives inside everyone. Your mind is not a calm lake. It is a storm. Thoughts clash, emotions collide, impulses surge. And most people spend their lives running from it, blaming others for the turmoil, blaming circumstances for the pain. That's the trap. That's the slavery. Here's the truth. Emotions are inevitable. You will feel anger. You will feel fear. You will feel frustration, disappointment, heartbreak. That is not weakness. That is not failure. That is life. But here's the key. What you do with those emotions is your choice. You have a choice. You decide their impact. You decide their direction. You decide whether they control you or serve you. Consider the failed project. You poured your energy, your time, your heart into it, and it collapsed. Most people's first response: anger, resentment, despair. They lash out. They blame colleagues, bosses, the economy, bad luck. They allow their emotions to hijack their next steps. They replay the scenario in their minds over and over, reliving every moment of frustration. That's chaos outside your control. That's a storm controlling your ship. But here's the alternative. You acknowledge the feelings. You recognize the anger. You recognize the disappointment. You feel it. Own it. Then let it go. That's the key. You have a choice. You don't need their permission to move forward. You don't need validation to regain control. Breakups follow the same pattern. The heart hurts. The ego bruises. Most people react, texting, pleading, arguing, or worse, obsessing. They give power to the emotional storm. And the storm grows. But if you take ownership of your inner chaos, the storm becomes manageable. Feel it. Own it. Then let it go. That is the mantra. That is the practice. That is discipline. You have a choice. You always have a choice. It's not about blaming them. It's not about changing them. It's about mastering yourself. It's not about weakness. It's about strength. That's the key. Now, let's break this down into actionable steps. Step 1. Observe the chaos inside you. When you feel that surge of emotion, anger, frustration, sadness, stop and notice it. Name it. This is anger. This is disappointment. This is fear. Awareness is the first act of mastery. Awareness defeats impulsivity. Awareness wins. Step 2. Accept it. Do not fight the emotion. Do not push it away. Accept that it exists. You are human. You are alive. That's normal. That's natural. That's not a flaw. That's life. Step 3. Own it. Say to yourself, I feel this. It is mine. I am responsible for it. I choose its impact. You have a choice. That's the key. Step 4. Release it. Let it go. Do not carry it into your next action. Do not let it dictate your behavior. You decide. That is freedom. That is power. That is discipline. Real-life reinforcement. Imagine a colleague criticizes you unfairly. Most people snap. They defend. They attack. They stew. They lose their focus. They give their power away. But you have another path. Observe the anger. Accept it. Own it. Decide how it will impact your next step. Respond calmly, rationally, intentionally. You have a choice. You have the power. You don't need permission to remain unshaken. You don't need approval to stay disciplined. You control your inner world. That's the key. Chaos is inevitable. Storms will come. Problems will appear. People will provoke. Life will test you. That is constant. That is reality. But you do not have to be its victim. Your emotions are signals, not dictators. Your chaos is your teacher, not your master. Every time you feel the surge of anger, disappointment, or fear, pause. Feel it. Own it. Then let it go. Repeat it. Repeat it until it becomes instinct. Repeat it until your inner chaos is no longer a storm but a river you can navigate. It's not about denying feelings. It's not about pretending nothing happened. It's not about repression. It's about direction. You are not your emotions. You are the captain of your mind. You are the arbiter of your responses. You have a choice. That's the key. Every time you reclaim control, every time you pause before acting, every time you turn chaos into clarity, you strengthen the muscle of discipline. You are no longer reacting. You are responding. You are mastering. Practical exercise. Each day, identify one moment of internal chaos. It could be frustration with work, anger at a friend, fear about the future. Step back. Observe the emotion. Name it. Accept it. Own it. Then let it go. Decide consciously how it will shape your next action. This is mental training. This is emotional mastery. This is discipline. Over time, these small victories accumulate until your inner chaos no longer dictates your life. It becomes your tool, your strength, your power. You have a choice. That's the key. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's not about never feeling. It's about controlling the impact. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being disciplined. It's not about blaming circumstances. It's about owning yourself. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Chaos is inevitable, but destruction is optional. That is the ultimate freedom. That is the transformation. That is the power of owning your inner chaos. You've now seen the first truth: emotions are unavoidable. You've seen the second truth: you decide their impact. You've learned the practical steps to reclaim your mind in moments of chaos. Observe, accept, own, release. You have the mantra: feel it, own it, then let it go. Repeat it. Embed it in your daily life. Repeat it. Practice it. Live it. That is how freedom is forged. And here's your next challenge. Mastering the chaos within is only the beginning. Once you own your inner storm, You can learn to silence the constant mental chatter that amplifies your emotional impulses. You mastered your inner chaos. Now, let's talk about the next layer, controlling the noise in your mind. Chapter 4. Silence the drama of your mind. Your mind is loud. Too loud. It never stops. It narrates, judges, criticizes, predicts disaster, and rewinds every mistake you've ever made. It magnifies every problem. It turns small annoyances into crises. It turns casual comments into personal attacks. It turns harmless moments into life-altering catastrophes. And most people believe everything it tells them. They react to the noise. They fight against the stories. They get caught in the endless loop. That's emotional slavery. That's giving your power away. But here's the truth. You have a choice. You can listen, or you can master. You can feed the drama, or you can silence it. That's the key. Your thoughts are not reality. They are interpretations. They are stories your mind tells to explain the world. Sometimes accurate, often distorted, rarely helpful. You imagine the worst before a presentation. You replay a difficult conversation in your head 10 times. You exaggerate intentions, magnify threats, and anticipate rejection. That's autopilot thinking. That's what keeps people anxious, stressed, and reactive. You don't need their permission to stop. You have the power to choose. You have the authority over your mind. That's the key. Here's the practice. Catch the narrative. The first moment your mind starts to spin a story, pause. Ask, is this fact or is this interpretation? Name the story. This is my mind predicting failure. This is my ego imagining humiliation. This is my fear creating a worst-case scenario. Awareness defeats the impulse. Awareness wins. You have a choice. You always have a choice. You don't need to believe every thought. You don't need to follow every story. You control the channel. That's the key. Consider a real-life example. You have an important meeting. You imagine you will stumble, forget your points, look foolish. Your mind spirals. Anxiety rises. Your heart races. That's the drama of the mind. But here's the alternative. Pause. Recognize the loop. This is not happening to me, it is happening for me. Repeat it. Repeat it again. Repeat it until your mind calms. Breathe. Ground yourself. Step into the meeting intentionally. You have a choice. You can feed the drama, or you can silence it. That's the key. Another example, a conversation with a loved one. You anticipate conflict. You imagine all the things that could go wrong. You create arguments in your head that haven't happened. That's drama. That's mental chaos. But you can break the loop. Stop the narrative. Step back. Ground yourself. This is not happening to me, it is happening for me. Repeat it. Repeat it. Repeat it. Your thoughts are no longer hijacking your emotions. You have reclaimed control. You have the choice. That's the key. Now, let's talk about practical strategies to silence your mind. First, identify your mental loops. Notice the stories your mind tells repeatedly. Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it judgment? Name it. Step 2. Interrupt the loop. Use a grounding phrase, a mantra, a deep breath. This is not happening to me, it is happening for me. Step 3. Redirect the energy. Replace the narrative with intention. Focus on action, not reaction. Step 4. Repeat daily. Awareness is a muscle. Discipline is a habit. Control is earned. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Here's the harsh truth. If you do not silence the drama of your mind, it will silence you. Your emotions will run you. Your thoughts will hijack your actions. Your life will feel chaotic. You don't need permission from anyone to reclaim your mind. You have everything you need within yourself. That's the key. Repeat it. Awareness wins. Control wins. You have a choice. You have the power. You have the discipline. It's not about eliminating thoughts. That's impossible. Your mind will always create stories. That's normal. That's human. It's about control. It's about discipline. It's about choice. You don't need to follow every narrative. You don't need to react to every impulse. You don't need to believe every scenario. You have the ultimate tool, your attention. Focus it. Direct it. Train it. That is mastery. That is freedom. That is emotional sovereignty. Daily exercise. Every morning, spend 5 minutes observing your thoughts. Let them arise. Name them. Recognize the narrative. Identify which thoughts are constructive, which are destructive. For the destructive ones, repeat your grounding mantra, "This is not happening to me, it is happening for me." Practice it throughout the day. Each time your mind spirals, pause, observe, redirect. You are training your mind to become calm, precise, disciplined. You have a choice. That's the key. Remember, your mind amplifies emotions. Unchecked, it will magnify fear, stress, and anger. But mastered, it becomes your ally. It guides, supports, and empowers you. The chaos becomes clarity. The noise becomes focus. The drama becomes discipline. You have a choice. You always have a choice. You don't need anyone's permission to reclaim your mind. You don't need approval to remain calm. You don't need validation to act intentionally. You control the channel. That's the key. The closing thought, silencing the drama of your mind, is not a one-time task. It is relentless, repeated, daily practice. Observe the story. Pause. Ground yourself. Redirect your focus. Repeat the mantra. Repeat it until it is instinct. Repeat it until your mind obeys your direction before the chaos even arrives. You have learned to recognize the narratives, to stop the loops, and to reclaim control over your emotional responses. That is mastery. That is freedom. That is the transformation. You've now seen how your thoughts amplify your emotions. You've learned to pause, observe, and redirect. You've practiced the grounding mantra. And that's why this chapter matters. You are no longer a victim of mental drama. You are reclaiming the power inside you. You are mastering the stories that once controlled you. You have a choice. That's the key. Next, we move from silence to intention. Once you control the noise, you can replace impulsive reactions with deliberate actions. You've silenced your mind. Now, let's learn to replace impulses with intention. Chapter 5. Replace impulses with intention. Your life will never change until you stop reacting and start choosing. That's the truth. That's the key. Most people live on autopilot. They respond to every message, every insult, every irritation with instinct, not thought. They let their emotions hijack their actions. But you don't have to be like them. You have a choice. Always. Impulses are not commands. They are suggestions, nothing more. Anger wants you to lash out. Fear wants you to freeze. Frustration wants you to complain. Every impulse is trying to take control of your mind. And if you let it, it will. But here's the power. You can intercept that impulse. You can step in. You can decide. That's the difference between someone who drifts through life and someone who controls it. You have a choice. That's the key. Let's make this practical. You receive a rude email. Your chest tightens. Your jaw clenches. Your fingers itch to respond. Impulse says, fire back. Defend yourself. Make them pay. But intention asks a question, what outcome do I want? That is the moment of power. That is the moment you reclaim your mind. That is where you act deliberately instead of reactively. And your mantra is simple: I act with purpose. I do not react to chaos. Repeat it. Live it. Breathe it. The difference is enormous. One person reacts and escalates. One person responds intentionally and diffuses. One person regrets their words later. One person maintains control. That is not luck. That is not intelligence. That is discipline. That's the key. Intentionality is a skill. Like any skill, it must be trained. And you train it with a simple checklist every time you feel a strong emotional impulse. Step 1. Pause. Even 1 second interrupts the autopilot. Even a breath buys you clarity. Step 2. Breathe. Not dramatically. Just consciously. Your nervous system needs to settle before your mind can act. Step 3. Ask, what outcome do I want? This is your filter. This is your shield. You do not react until you know the purpose of your action. Step 4. Act deliberately. Only after the first 3 steps do you move. Your movement is intentional. Your words are deliberate. Your energy is controlled. That is intention. That is power. That is mastery. Let's take another example. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Impulse screams, yell, honk. Show them. Most people obey that command. They let chaos dictate their day. But if you pause, breathe, and ask, what outcome do I want? You realize nothing good comes from shouting. You choose to let it go. You drive calmly. You maintain focus. You save energy. You win internally while the other person loses their drama. That's intention. That's discipline. That's the key. It's not just about anger or frustration. Impulse affects every part of life. Desire makes you chase short-term pleasure over long-term goals. Fear makes you avoid opportunities. Social pressure makes you conform instead of lead. Every emotional signal is an impulse. Every impulse is a fork in the road. You have a choice at every fork. You don't need anyone's permission to take the better path. You don't need approval. You don't need validation. It's not about comfort, it's about discipline. That's the key. Now, let's make this habit concrete. For the next 24 hours, practice the mental checklist on every emotional trigger. Every irritation, every temptation, every slight, every frustration. Pause. Breathe. Ask, what outcome do I want? Act deliberately. Repeat, I act with purpose. I do not react to chaos. Do it over and over. Make it automatic. Let intention become your default setting. Impulse will try to fight it. Impulse will scream. Impulse will push. But you can choose. You always have a choice. That's the key. Another tool: create your personal reaction journal. Every time you notice yourself reacting without thinking, write it down. What was the trigger? How did you respond? What would an intentional response look like? Reflect on it. Learn from it. Build mental muscle. Over time, your brain will rewire itself. Impulse will lose power. Intention will dominate. You will not just survive emotionally, you will thrive. Remember, this is a process. You will fail sometimes. You will react before thinking. That is human. But you don't stay in failure. You reset. You pause. You choose again. Repetition strengthens the habit. Discipline builds the identity. Identity changes your life. It's not about perfection. It's about persistence. That's the key. Here's the ultimate truth. Every choice matters. Every moment you act intentionally instead of reacting, you train your mind to higher levels of control. Every reaction you avoid strengthens your power. Every intentional action compounds into mastery. This is how people rise above chaos. This is how emotional freedom is won. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Let's reinforce it one more time. I act with purpose. I do not react to chaos. Say it aloud. Say it in your mind. Let it echo in every decision, every impulse, every interaction. This mantra is your armor. This mantra is your discipline. This mantra is your weapon. Use it relentlessly. As you master intention over impulse, your world changes. Your energy is protected. Your mind is sharper. Your relationships improve. Your life accelerates. You are no longer at the mercy of chaos. You are the master of your responses. You are unstoppable. That's the key. And now, as you close this chapter, understand this: mastering intentional action is not the end. It is a foundation. The next challenge is to refine your control even further. To stop giving away energy, to protect your mind, to prevent others from breaking your focus. You've learned to replace impulse with intention. You've learned the mental checklist. You've learned the mantra. But now it's time to take control of your boundaries. Chapter 6. Master the pause. There is one simple habit that separates people who are controlled by their emotions from those who command their lives: the pause. That's it. 2 seconds. 3 seconds. 1 breath. That's all it takes to regain control. And yet, most people never pause. They act instantly. They react automatically. They let chaos dictate their choices. And their lives are full of regret. But you are not most people. You have a choice. You can stop. You can pause. And that is the key. The pause is not a weakness. It is not hesitation. It is your greatest weapon. It is the gap between stimulus and response, the space where your mind regains control. Every time you pause, you intercept the automatic, impulsive reaction. You choose your response instead of being chosen by your emotions. That is discipline. That is mastery. That is power. Let's make it concrete. You're in traffic. Someone cuts you off. Your heart races. Anger rises. Your first instinct screams, honk, yell, make them pay. That is impulse. That is the mind running on autopilot. But even a 2-second pause changes everything. Take a breath. Count to 2. Think. And then respond. Maybe you do nothing. Maybe you adjust your speed. Maybe you simply let it go. The outcome is completely different. You are in control. You have the power. That is the key. The pause works in every area of life. Emails, conversations, social media, family arguments. Every time your body or mind signals a reaction, that is your cue to pause. That is your moment to regain authority over your choices. You don't need to react instantly. You don't need approval. You don't need to prove anything. It's not about responding to the chaos. It's about choosing your discipline. That is the key. Here's a powerful practice. Every time you feel a strong emotional spike, anger, fear, anxiety, take a deliberate pause. Step away. Count to 10. Close your eyes and breathe. Repeat a grounding phrase. Pause. Think. Respond. Win. Say it internally or out loud. Let it anchor you. Let it remind you that the only person controlling your mind is you. No one else. You have a choice. That is the key. Let's explore a real-life example. You receive harsh criticism at work. Your first impulse is to argue, defend yourself, or lash out. That is normal. That is human. But the pause is your power. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. You breathe. You collect your thoughts. You respond with calm, deliberate words. You maintain control. You preserve your reputation. You avoid unnecessary conflict. You turn a potential disaster into a demonstration of strength. That is intention. That is the difference between being a victim of emotion and being the master of your mind. The pause also trains your brain over time. Every time you interrupt your automatic reaction, you reinforce a neural pathway of control. Impulse loses power. Thoughtfulness becomes habitual. Discipline becomes second nature. Your mind is no longer a battlefield, it is a fortress. That is why the pause is not just a trick. It is a lifestyle. It is the foundation of emotional mastery. Remember this, the pause is always available. It costs nothing. It takes no skill to start, only commitment. You don't need anyone's permission. You don't need to wait for the right moment. Every single time you feel the urge to react, the pause is there. Every single time you feel tension, the pause is there. Every single time you feel chaos, the pause is there. And each time you use it, you win. That is the key. Here is a mental checklist to implement the pause. Step 1. Recognize the impulse. Awareness is the first step. Notice the spike in your chest, the tension in your jaw, the heat in your mind. That is your cue. Step 2. Step back physically or mentally. Even a literal step away from the situation can help. Remove yourself from immediate chaos. Step 3. Take deliberate breaths. Inhale, exhale. Slow down your nervous system. Calm the mind. This is the space where control returns. Step 4. Repeat the mantra. Pause. Think. Respond. Win. Let it echo in your mind. Let it shape your reaction. Let it remind you that you are in command. Step 5. Choose your action deliberately. After the pause, decide intentionally. Your action is now guided by purpose, not impulse. You are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are the master of your choices. Another example, a heated text message from a friend. Your first instinct is to reply angrily. Most people do. Most people regret it later. But you pause. You breathe. You wait. You respond calmly or choose not to respond at all. You preserve the relationship. You preserve your energy. You preserve your peace of mind. That is the power of the pause. That is the difference between chaos and mastery. Make no mistake, the pause is not always easy. Impulse is strong. Emotion is loud. Society rewards reaction, drama, and instant responses. But you are building a different life. You are building internal strength. Every time you pause, you enforce discipline. Every time you pause, you reclaim control. Every time you pause, you grow. That is the key. As this chapter closes, understand the bigger lesson. Mastering the pause is not just about holding back. It is about taking back authority over your mind and your energy. It is about being deliberate, not reactive. It is about refusing to give away your power to chaos. And the next step in your journey is to protect your mind even further, to build unbreakable boundaries against distraction, toxicity, and emotional drain. Chapter 7. Build ironclad mental boundaries. Your mind is your most valuable asset. Every thought, every reaction, every decision originates there. Yet most people leave it wide open. They allow every opinion, every insult, every negative vibration to enter unchecked. And their lives reflect it. Chaos. Drama. Emotional exhaustion. But you are not most people. You have a choice. You can protect your mind. You can set boundaries. And that is the key. Boundaries are not walls. They are the gates of your inner world. They decide who, what, and how much enters. They guard your energy. They defend your focus. They prevent other people's negativity from hijacking your emotions. And the truth is, if you don't set them, someone else will. Your energy will be spent. Your mind will be cluttered. Your life will be reactive, not intentional. That is why boundaries are not optional, they are essential. Let's make this practical. Imagine a toxic colleague who constantly complains, criticizes, and spreads negativity. Most people react. They argue, they try to fix them, they drain themselves. But boundaries change everything. You recognize the toxicity. You limit your exposure. You interact only when necessary. You keep your energy intact. And you remind yourself, my mind is mine. No one enters without permission. Say it. Believe it. Live it. That is the key. Boundaries also protect you from emotional manipulation. Friends, family, coworkers, everyone has energy, and some will try to take more than they give. Most people let it happen. They say yes when they should say no. They overcommit. They sacrifice themselves for approval. But the strong say no. They protect their focus. They prioritize their peace. That is not selfish, it is discipline. That is not rude, it is mastery. That is the key. Here is a simple method to build mental boundaries. Step 1. Identify energy leaks. Notice who or what drains you emotionally. Conversations that leave you frustrated. People who trigger unnecessary drama. Media that fuels anxiety. Awareness is the first defense. Step 2. Limit exposure. You don't have to argue, explain, or justify. Reduce interactions that harm you. Skip toxic meetings. Mute unnecessary notifications. Walk away when needed. You have a choice. That is the key. Step 3. Practice saying no. No is a complete sentence. You don't need to explain yourself. You don't need to justify your decision. You don't need their permission. It is your boundary, your energy, your life. Say it confidently. Repeat, my mind is mine. No one enters without permission. Step 4. Protect your mental space daily. Journaling, meditation, and reflection are not luxuries. They are shields. Every morning, reinforce your boundaries. Decide what you will allow in and what you will reject. Decide the people, conversations, and media that deserve your attention. You don't react to every demand, only to what aligns with your purpose. That is discipline. That is power. That is the key. Let's take another example. A family member constantly criticizes your choices. Most people react. They argue, they feel guilty, they try to please. But boundaries give you control. You limit exposure. You set clear limits on what is acceptable. You interact only on your terms. You maintain peace of mind. You are not at the mercy of their drama. That is mastery. That is intentional living. That is the key. Boundaries are also critical in relationships. Romantic partners, friends, colleagues, all will test your limits. Most people compromise too much. Most people bend until they break. But mastery requires firmness. Communicate clearly. Protect your emotional energy. Reject behaviors that are destructive. Allow only what aligns with your values. Remember, my mind is mine. No one enters without permission. That is the mantra of the strong. That is the discipline of winners. That is the key. Every day, reinforce your boundaries. Every interaction is an opportunity to strengthen them. Every challenge is a chance to practice. You will feel resistance. People will push back. They may label you as distant, rude, or uncaring. That is normal. That is expected. Boundaries are not popular. They are necessary. You don't need approval. You don't need validation. You don't need permission. You have a choice. That is the key. The truth is, people respect what you protect. Energy, time, and focus are magnetic when disciplined. Those who value your presence will adjust. Those who don't will fall away. And that is exactly how it should be. Boundaries do not push people away. They separate energy drains from energy creators. That is intentional living. That is self-mastery. That is power. Finally, boundaries allow your mind to thrive. Creativity, focus, calm, and clarity emerge naturally when distractions, drama, and chaos are contained. Emotional reactions decrease. Impulse control strengthens. Decisions become deliberate. You act from power, not panic. You respond, not react. And you win consistently. That is the ultimate payoff of boundaries. That is the key. As you close this chapter, remember this: building ironclad mental boundaries is not a one-time task. It is a daily practice. It is a mindset. It is a way of life. You must enforce them, reinforce them, and respect them relentlessly. Your energy, your focus, and your mind are worth protecting. And now, the next lesson takes your internal control even deeper. You have learned to defend your mind. You have learned to guard your energy. But what about the lies most people tell themselves about control? How they give away power without realizing it. Chapter 8. The lies you tell yourself about control. Most people believe control is external. Jobs, bosses, partners, traffic, the weather. They think these things dictate their mood, their decisions, their life. That is the first lie. That is the trap. That is why so many people feel powerless, frustrated, and at the mercy of circumstances. But here is the truth: control is internal. It has always been internal. You have a choice. You have power. And that is the key. Think about it. How often do you blame someone else for your emotions? Traffic makes you angry. A coworker's comment upsets you. Your partner's behavior frustrates you. You react instantly, then complain, "Why is this happening to me?" Stop. That is the lie speaking. That is the trap. That is the false story your mind has accepted. Because here is the truth: nothing external controls you unless you let it. Nothing external dictates your response unless you allow it. You are the CEO of your mind. You run your thoughts, your feelings, your life. Repeat it. Internalize it. Live it: I am the CEO of my mind. I run my thoughts, my feelings, my life. External events are neutral. They have no inherent power. It is your perception, your interpretation, your reaction that gives them strength. Someone cuts you off in traffic. The event itself is neutral. Your reaction, anger, frustration, rage, that is where power is lost. But pause. Think. Respond. Choose your action. That is where power is gained. That is where control is reclaimed. That is the key. Here's another example. Your boss criticizes your work. Most people feel hurt, defensive, even panicked. Most people think, they control my worth. They control my mood. That is a lie. That is giving away your power. True mastery is this: you hear the criticism, you evaluate it objectively, you respond deliberately, and you move forward with your plan. You control your interpretation. You control your feelings. You control the outcome of your energy. That is discipline. That is freedom. That is the key. Most people also tell themselves the lie of delayed control. They think, one day when I have the right job, the right partner, the right circumstances, I will be in control. Stop lying to yourself. That day will never come if you do not start now. Control is not about external conditions. It is about internal authority. You can be in control anywhere, anytime, regardless of what surrounds you. You have a choice. That is the key. Let's break it down practically. There are 3 mental traps people fall into that steal control. Trap 1. Blaming external circumstances. Traffic, weather, other people. They are convenient scapegoats. But the minute you blame, you surrender your mind. Awareness defeats impulse. Awareness wins. Notice the thought. Interrupt it. Decide internally how to respond. That is the key. Trap 2. Seeking validation. Most people wait for approval to feel safe, to feel good, to feel competent. They think, if they like me, I will be calm. If they approve, I will feel in control. That is a lie. Control does not come from others. Approval is irrelevant. You decide your mood. You dictate your energy. You are the CEO of your mind. That is the key. Trap 3. Believing circumstances define identity. People think, I am stressed because work is stressful. I am anxious because of family issues. Stop. Your circumstances are not your identity. Your reactions are. Your choices are. Your discipline is. That is the key. You are not a victim of the situation. You are the master of your mind. Now let's talk about tools to reclaim internal control. First, awareness. Notice your reactions. Identify when you are giving your power away. Second, pause. Even 1 second between stimulus and response creates leverage. Third, reframe. Ask, what is my choice here? How can I respond intentionally? Fourth, affirm your authority. Repeat, I am the CEO of my mind. I run my thoughts, my feelings, my life. Fifth, take action from strength, not reaction. Every choice matters. Every moment matters. That is discipline. That is mastery. That is the key. A practical example in daily life, social media. Notifications ping. Someone posts something provocative. Most people react, commenting angrily, feeling resentment, losing focus. But you are different. You pause. You consider your response. You decide, do I want to give my energy to this? Does this align with my purpose? If the answer is no, you scroll past. You remain calm. You remain in control. You decide. That is the key. Remember, control is internal. External chaos will always exist. Life will always throw surprises. People will act unpredictably. Circumstances will shift. The difference between success, peace, and mastery versus chaos, stress, and frustration is simple: your choice. Your internal authority. Your discipline. That is why the mantra matters. Say it. Believe it. Repeat it constantly. I am the CEO of my mind. I run my thoughts, my feelings, my life. When you truly internalize this, something profound happens. You no longer fear external events. You no longer react impulsively. You no longer hand your power to others. You operate from clarity, calm, and strategy. You respond intentionally. You act deliberately. You live deliberately. That is mastery. That is freedom. That is the key. Closing this chapter, understand this. Most people are slaves to circumstance because they believe the lie. You have chosen differently. You know control is internal. You know power resides in your choices, your reactions, and your discipline. And the next step is learning how to channel all of your emotions, fear, anger, desire, into productive energy that fuels your goals rather than sabotaging them. Chapter 9. Harness fear, anger, and desire. Emotions are energy. That is the first truth you must accept. Fear, anger, desire, these are not your enemies. They are signals, tools, and fuel. They are raw power. And most people waste it. They react impulsively. They let fear freeze them. They let anger destroy them. They let desire control them. That is the trap. That is the drain. That is why so many people feel powerless. But you are not most people. You have a choice. You can channel this energy. You can transform it. And that is the key. Let's start with fear. Fear is an automatic response. It protects you. It warns you. But most people interpret fear as a stop sign. They let it immobilize them. They let it dictate their decisions. That is a lie. Fear is a signal to prepare, to strategize, to focus. Fear is energy waiting to be directed. Take the example of preparing for a presentation or a challenging task. Most people panic, procrastinate, or avoid. But you? You take that fear, analyze it, and act with precision. You use it as motivation. You let it sharpen your focus. You convert anxiety into preparation. And every time you do this, you reinforce the mantra, energy becomes power when I direct it. Repeat it. Feel it. Live it. That is the key. Next, anger. Anger is explosive, powerful, and often misunderstood. Most people let it destroy relationships, careers, and opportunities. They lash out. They vent. They react without thinking. That is chaos. But anger is energy, raw and untamed, ready to be channeled. The gym is a perfect example. You feel frustrated, angry, restless. Most people let it fester. You channel it into movement, discipline, and action. You lift heavier. You push longer. You run faster. You let that energy fuel your growth instead of destroying it. And every time you do, you say to yourself, energy becomes power when I direct it. That is the key. That is mastery. That is transformation. Then there is desire. Desire is longing, ambition, hunger for more. Most people let it control them. They chase instantly. They indulge. They react impulsively. But desire, like fear and anger, is energy. When directed properly, it becomes the engine of achievement. You feel desire for a goal. Most people wait for external validation or immediate gratification. You create a plan. You act with intention. You use that desire to fuel consistent effort. Desire becomes focus. Desire becomes persistence. Desire becomes power. And again, repeat, energy becomes power when I direct it. That is the key. Here is how to harness these three forces practically. Step 1. Recognize the emotion. Awareness is your first tool. Notice fear, anger, or desire the moment it arises. Do not judge it. Do not suppress it. Just recognize. Awareness defeats impulse. Awareness wins. That is the key. Step 2. Label it and own it. Say to yourself, this is fear. This is anger. This is desire. I acknowledge it. I own it. I do not let it own me. Ownership is power. When you claim the emotion, it stops controlling you. That is discipline. That is mastery. That is the key. Step 3. Direct it. Fear becomes preparation. Anger becomes action. Desire becomes persistence. You create a mental checklist for conversion. You choose how to use the energy. You decide. That is internal authority. That is power. That is the key. Step 4. Reinforce with repetition. Every time you feel the emotion, remind yourself, energy becomes power when I direct it. Every single time. Reinforce the habit. Embed the transformation into your neural patterns. That is the key. A real-world example. Imagine a fear of failure in your career. Most people avoid challenges, stay safe, and regret opportunities. You recognize the fear. You plan your steps. You act despite the anxiety. You turn fear into focus, into preparation, into results. That is harnessing energy. That is internal mastery. That is the key. Another example, someone cuts you off in traffic. Most people explode with anger. You pause. You breathe. You redirect the energy into calm focus. You do not react. You channel your energy into control. That is power. That is freedom. That is the key. Or consider desire. You want success, recognition, wealth, growth. Most people chase it blindly, burn out, or give up. You act deliberately. You set goals. You schedule action. You convert desire into structured energy that compounds over time. You harness the force instead of being consumed by it. That is discipline. That is transformation. That is the key. Do not underestimate the compounding effect of emotional energy when directed properly. Every fear faced, every anger converted, every desire harnessed builds momentum. Your life begins to change. Your discipline grows. Your focus intensifies. Your results multiply. That is why mastery of emotion is non-negotiable. That is why internal control is essential. That is the key. Remember, the strongest people are not those who never feel fear, anger, or desire. They are the ones who feel it fully, and then channel it into deliberate, productive action. That is the difference between chaos and power. That is the difference between reacting and responding. That is the key. So as you close this chapter, commit to one thing. The next time fear paralyzes you, anger rises, or desire tempts you to act impulsively, pause, recognize, and channel that energy. Convert it into preparation, action, and persistent effort. Repeat, energy becomes power when I direct it. Internalize it. Live it. That is the key. And now, you are ready for the final step, taking everything you've learned and applying it every single day. You've mastered pause, boundaries, awareness, and emotional energy. The next chapter will teach you how to create daily habits that enforce emotional mastery permanently. Chapter 10. Live Free, the Daily Discipline of Emotional Mastery. Emotional mastery is not a single event. It is not something you achieve once and then forget. It is a daily habit. Every choice, every action, every moment you decide to practice control builds the life you want. That is the key. Each day, you either reinforce mastery or reinforce chaos. You have a choice. You decide. The first step is structure. Your mind responds to routines. Rituals create boundaries. Morning reflection is your anchor. Before you even check your phone, before you see the news, before you face the world, you take time to ground yourself. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it takes. Reflect on your intentions. Ask yourself, what will I control today? What will I refuse to give away? That is discipline. That is freedom. That is mastery. Journaling is another powerful tool. Writing down your thoughts removes chaos from your mind and places it on paper. Anger, frustration, fear, anxiety, they are all signals, not commands. Write them down. Examine them. Name them. Understand them. You cannot control what you do not acknowledge. Journaling is not therapy. It is not for someone else. It is for you. You have a choice. That is the key. Intentional pauses throughout the day enforce emotional control. Every spike of anger or stress is an opportunity. You do not react. You pause. You breathe. You choose. That is how you win yourself back, moment by moment. Apply it at work. Apply it at home. Apply it when people push your buttons. Apply it when life tests your patience. Each time you pause, you strengthen your mastery. Each time you choose discipline over chaos, you reinforce the neural pathways of control. Your mind becomes a fortress. That is freedom. That is power. That is the key. Emotional mastery is also about energy management. Protect your time. Protect your attention. Protect your peace. Avoid unnecessary arguments. Avoid toxic interactions. Avoid distractions that serve no purpose. Your emotional energy is finite. Guard it as you would guard treasure. Every moment you waste reacting to trivialities is a moment lost. Every day you invest in mastery is a day you win. That is the key. Reflection at the end of the day reinforces learning. Before sleep, review your choices. Ask, where did I pause? Where did I react? Where could I have acted with more discipline? This is not judgment. This is accountability. Growth requires honesty. Growth requires repetition. Growth requires commitment. You have a choice. Each night is a test. Each night is a chance to reinforce mastery. That is the key. Consider real-life applications. You wake up late. Traffic is heavy. Your boss is irritable. The kids are fighting. Chaos surrounds you. Your first instinct might be to complain, yell, panic, or react emotionally. That is the easy path. The automatic path. But mastery is the harder path. You pause. You breathe. You plan. You respond deliberately. You choose patience. You choose composure. You choose discipline. The day does not control you. You control the day. That is freedom. That is mastery. That is the key. Daily discipline compounds over time. One moment of mastery may seem small. One day of conscious choice may seem insignificant. But habit builds exponentially. Days become weeks. Weeks become months. Months become years. A life lived in automatic reaction is chaotic. A life lived in conscious mastery is unstoppable. You have a choice. You decide the trajectory of your life. That is the key. Remember, mastery is internal. No one can give it to you. No one can take it away. The world will challenge you. People will provoke you. Life will test you. But each time you choose intention over impulse, each time you act deliberately rather than react reflexively, you reinforce the only thing that truly matters: control over yourself. That is the foundation of freedom. That is emotional sovereignty. That is power. That is the key. Every morning, every interaction, every decision is a test. Will you react, or will you respond? Will you be driven by chaos, or will you be guided by discipline? Each day is a choice. Each action is a vote for the life you want. Emotional mastery is not abstract. It is practical. It is measurable. It is observable in the calm of your responses, the clarity of your decisions, the quality of your relationships, and the peace of your mind. That is freedom. That is the key. Energy, focus, and discipline compound. By the time you reach the end of a month, a year, or a decade, the results are undeniable. People who react constantly are exhausted. They are trapped. They are victims of circumstance. You who practice daily mastery are powerful. You are free. You are intentional. You are unshakable. That is the result of daily discipline. That is the key. So, implement your rituals. Reflect. Journal. Pause. Breathe. Act deliberately. Protect your energy. Guard your attention. Manage your responses. Build habits that enforce emotional sovereignty. Repeat. 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 Every day, every hour, every moment. This is not optional. This is essential. That is the key. You do not need anyone's approval. You do not need anyone's validation. You do not need external conditions to be perfect. All you need is your commitment to yourself, to your mind, to your life. Each day, you choose mastery. Each day, you strengthen your fortress. Each day, you win yourself. That is the key. Now you know the truth. No one can control your emotions except you. Every reaction, every impulse, every outburst you've blamed on others is yours to master. You've learned how to pause, how to redirect, how to harness the very emotions that once ruled you. This is not theory, this is action. Starting now, every time life tests you, you will pause, you will think, you will choose. You are no longer a slave. You are free. But freedom is a choice, every single day. So here's my challenge. Starting today for the next 30 days, apply every principle in this audiobook. Stop reacting. Start mastering. And at the end of those 30 days, you will look in the mirror and see the person you were meant to be, calm, unstoppable, unshakable. The power is yours. Will you take it?